I want to sort of continue the conversation around the new rules of engagement. We think a lot about them, and I have 4 panelists that are going to come up and join me, and we are going to talk about just that theme. So Emily, Sonny, where are you? Cindy and Nick, I'll announce you guys as you're walking up here. Emily Culp is the CMO of Keds. Sonny Kim is the SVP of Digital Media at PGR. Cindy Stockwell is the president of Trilia, and congratulations, because she was just up here. In fact, congratulations to all of them. And Nick Dunham, the director of media partnerships at Dunkin brands. So everybody give them a round of applause.
Headed for the open door.
Yeah. I wish I was in my Keds.
That's right. Yes,
I sort of wish I was in my Keds after this stage. Walking around so much. So thank you all for joining. We had a chance to meet earlier, and it's been such a great day, and congratulations to all of you for the great work you're doing in this community. All of you have won awards today, which is so fantastic. I sort of was thinking we'd start with some curiosity I have and let you all take a stab at this one, which is in this changing landscape of this attention economy that I touched on and all of these new platforms, what's something that you've done in the last, say, 3 to 4 months that you're really proud of, but even for the next 5 months, you're not so sure it would work? That you had to be that agile and it was that sort of real time and culturally relevant that it wouldn't necessarily work in the future? And how do you think about that as it relates to engagement and sort of keeping up with the path of consumers? Nick, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Actually, an example that just happened a couple days ago. We were talking earlier about appetite for measurement risk. Do you do things not knowing if you're going to get an immediate payoff? And what we try to do is have an appetite for testing, not so much spending lots of money in figuring out if it works, but let's work with interesting partners that are new to the space, particularly in mobile. And example being a company Trilia and my team worked with called Snaps, which at the time we were kind of investigating Bitmojis and what is our place in this kind of language and lexicon within text. And this company, Snaps, produces something called stickers, which are kind of just a little bit more elaborate emojis. And we find out, last week that they're going to be featured in Apple's iOS 10 release. So now all of a sudden, something that was a small test is now going to be featured in a lot of iPhones when people feel brave enough to download the new iOS. So I'm really excited about that. But again, getting back to not knowing ahead of time that it's going to always be huge sometimes leads to success, and sometimes it doesn't.
So as you think about that iteration, right? Essentially, it's test, learn quickly, and then iterate in order to see how that can scale up and then become maybe a consistent part of your media mix. Talk about that measurement and how agile you are, and maybe the change in roles and the rules within your organizations to ensure that you can capitalize on something like that, which was really lucky, so congratulations.
Yeah.
And this is out to anybody.
Well, I think I talked about Facebook, and I know everyone does Facebook, but really great measurement, a lot of great data about the consumer experience. And what we get a lot from Facebook is the feedback. So any of the comments that we get from our consumer, and so just recently, actually in the last 2 weeks, one of our brands put a new campaign out in market, and they were getting a lot of responses. Some negative, some very positive, but a lot of negative, and things that wasn't necessarily thought through during the brand development. So we reacted quickly, gave the feedback back, and the social team was on it as well. But it gave the brand an opportunity to get the feedback right away, iterate, and put something else in market. So I think we're living in an environment where we can get the feedback directly from the consumers in an advertising environment, and we can change really quickly. And I think for me that's exciting. We have all this data, we have qualitative data as well as quantitative data. So it's an exciting moment for us in terms of advertising to engage with that consumer and react as a brand.
So give me the client perspective on that.
Yeah,
Because
I think I actually almost want to go back to your first question around, what are programs that we're doing today that even 6 months to a year from now that we couldn't do. And I draw upon one, and Sonny knows this because she felt the pain of this, but in a loving way. We rapidly, one of the key parts of Keds and what we stand for is ladies first since 1916, because we've been around for over a century. And Women's Equality Day was something that just happened on August 26th. And leading up to it, it's not only a really important event for the brand, I should say, but also for me personally. I believe very strongly in female empowerment. And so we decided to activate about 2 or 3 weeks out prior to that. And we put together an entire media, that's why Sonny looks so happy towards me, no, just kidding. We put together an entire boosting program in social media, of course with Facebook, what have you. But we also activated one of our Keds collective members, Sierra. We also partnered with a cause such as I Am That Girl, and we did it in LA. And we did all of this in about 2.5 weeks. And the reason why I bring it up is, and we did a lot with Snapchat as well and Instagram, of course, the exact program that we did then, in no way, shape, or form is going to be the same program we would quote anniversary next year on Women's Equality Day. Because even with the changing regulations with the FTC on how you're, engaging your collective members or what have you, and how they have to disclaim that or disclaimers around it, the landscape always changes, and I can't tell you what we're going to do next year. And to me, that's the part that both keeps me up, but also keeps me so excited about what changes.
So for that to work, that means great agency partners, great people internally believing in you as a CMO to say, you got this, but even more importantly, great publishing partners. I mean, access to audience and having publishers that can work nimbly with you. And I put this out to everyone because I think, true or false, do you have to work with less partners now to be able to execute really great programs like that? Because the age of planning a media campaign and executing on a limited amount of specs and be able to get it out there and distribute to many, are we past that?
I don't think it's about the number. I believe bigger is better. So what I mean by that in depth, Sonny knows she is a strategic partner and part of my team, as is 1 or 2 other partners who helped us activate this. They know our brand inside and out. They're passionate about it. And frankly, they're already embedded in part of the team. So they know the KPIs, they know what we stand for, and can rapidly make decisions on behalf of us and with us. So to me, it's not so much about whether you have 2 partners or 3 partners, it's how well you work with your partner, how well they know your brand, and frankly, how aligned you all are.
Mm-hmm. And I think it is important for the publishers out there.
There's inquiring sales guys.
I know, there's a lot of guys
Now's
out there.
your chance.
I was just saying, I think it's important for the sales team, and we have a lot of really great sales partners who are agile, who are flexible, who also take the time to understand the brand, and that can move and change as we do. So that's really the critical thing that we like to see in our partners, someone who takes the time to understand the brand just as we would.
Cindy, would you have anything to add
So
there?
I think we found that we've really sort of split. We talked about the word bifurcated, but the media strategy is really bifurcated to those, that amount of money or that part of the budget that's really about getting reach and getting the brand curated message out there, if you will. So whether that's television ads or something else. And then that part that is really about creating engagements that are maybe a little bit more hands-on or shareable or unique. And those, I think you do have to pick your partners really carefully, and you have to pick partners that get the brand and can bring it to life in ways that are authentic, to use the words that, have been kind of played around, authentic, engaging, emotional, etc. And I think you're seeing more and more of that. Less % of the budget is being devoted to the reach stuff, and more % of the budget, greater % of the budget is being devoted to that sort of engagement side of our business.
And I think about it, when I first started in the business, being a client meant you just sat and looked at post buys and questioned, well, what's happening here and what's happening there. Now it's literally going and to some really cool new age companies, sitting down with their creatives, with agency creative types, with the media teams, and building such customized experiences that it's just much more of an interesting time to be a media person. And I would say it all has to, when you talk about how many, it's how much bandwidth do you have? Because you could spend, an entire team could spend a month or two on one major partnership for one kind of execution. So we kind of try and balance it there and not go too crazy, but also kind of pick the right ones for the brand.
So relevancy, storytelling, authenticity, all of this has come up this morning, I should say this afternoon. And you talked a little bit about influencers, and we've talked about them before in the context of your business. Talk about that space and what are the best practices in terms of leveraging them to tell stories, and maybe also even into the creative conversation with your creative agency partners, because it's just starting to feel more like a fluid ecosystem, and I'm wondering if there's best practices you can share with everyone in the room, or don'ts. Like, absolutely, this is a terrible idea, so let's all stop doing that.
Yeah. I'll talk about the positive side. I think, when I refer to the Keds Collective, it's a group of 6 women that we selected this year who really embody what Keds stands for around creative entrepreneurship, et cetera. So it's everyone from Tori Kelly to Sierra to Taylor Swift to Allison Williams, and the list goes on. So it's a really diverse, interesting group of women that we assembled. Going back to your point, it's really interesting to me because I view all of them in many ways as helping us stretch our media dollars. Because when they post on their social media channels, the algorithms, will reward them in a different way versus if I put the content on my brand channel. So I think it's thinking about, in many ways, influencers and celebrities, whatever you want to deem them, as media reach vehicles, if you will. One of the ways that, going back to your point in best practices, Allison Williams, for example, has been an unbelievable strategic partner with us, and she is so deeply involved in our business. We actually include her in the creative direction and brainstorming. So before we do videos or anything like that, or even campaign spots, I'm on the phone with her talking about directions and ideas, and she's iterating and coming up with different ideas. So I think that authenticity, going back to that word, but also having them be part of the conversation and shaping what they're doing actually makes it work better and delivers better results for both parties.
I mean, that's a big role shift.
Yeah.
How would you?
Well, I think some of it, though, like if you go back all the way to DJ endorsers,
Right.
DJ endorsers had to be people, if they were going to do it right, they had to be people who loved the brand and could talk about the brand in a way that was very natural. We're just taking this to a much bigger stage, to be honest, right? And so I think the same thing, you saw some awards for the program we did for Dunkin with Logan Paul. Logan Paul was a brand fan before we ever asked him to work with us. That's the perfect endorser or the perfect influencer for a brand like Dunkin. And we're lucky. Dunkin has a lot of people who love the brand. And so to be able to engage with them in a very natural and authentic way is easier than it is probably for some other brands.
I would love to take sort of the brain scan stuff that Nielsen showed and show what our franchisees' brains saw when they watched the Logan Paul stuff, because it's very much different and out of character of all the gorgeous work that we typically do around our beverages and our food. And the way I kind of talk about it at work is none of the millions of people who saw this ever thought for once that this was out of character. And in fact, they viewed this as a very important link because they know Logan really is a Dunkin fan, and therefore we're actually helping him succeed as sort of this new generation star. So it's this very much a tapping into community kind of field that when you get it right and find the right person, it really does work well. But you just gotta definitely let them talk to their fans the way they normally would talk. If he were to come on and not do the goofy donut thing or do whatever, they would think, well, gee, he's just collecting a paycheck.
And I think building on that, as I mentioned before in Allison, that I didn't get into all the lens. I developed a lens for picking every single one of those women and what makes sense within our collective. Number one, in terms of the lens or pillar, was brand affinity. And that is something where you have to have persistence in order to find these folks who truly actually have affinity and spend the time, the hours I spent talking to different talent folks to really ask them, okay, what's your favorite shoe? Which one do you love? When did you wear it? 2 seconds, you can tell whether they actually like your brand or were prepped to like your brand, and you can figure it out. I mean, Allison was quoting to me the US Rubber Company facts because she had done a school report or something on it, and I mean, it was mind-blowing, and I was like, we're good. You can name the style of your shoe, plus you know the history of our company. So I think, again, it goes back to just, it's about persistence, and frankly, I think the investment upfront of time, if you do it, absolutely pays off in the end.
Yeah. So shifting gears a little bit from storytelling and authenticity, which I think those are all great shares, but measurement still really matters in terms of driving ROI, and there's a lot of fun ideas that I'm sure come out of all the brainstorms that you guys are involved in. But how are you evolving the attribution model, and how are you really thinking about measurement to ensure that you can test and learn, and that you have the investments in the right place, and that you're not overextending yourself into any, too many of the new media experiencers or too far into the influencer space? And maybe there's no such thing as too far. I don't know, you tell me, but I'm curious.
I always say it just comes down to sales. How do we move the business? So, and it doesn't have to be so convoluted, but at the end of the day, did my influencer help move the business needle? Did my, advertising campaign, did my print campaign help move the needle? And we have so many conversations about attribution. There's so many different tools out there, but at the end of the day, did it move sales? And what I'd like to talk about is media can have a closer relationship with the data and analytics team at the brand level so that we can have a direct conversation relationship to understand how much movement did it make, whether it's today or 3 months from now, what's the possibility. That I think is the most important conversation, number one. And then we talk about some of the other, brand KPIs that we can talk about.
Mm-hmm. Is it the same for your business?
Yeah, I mean, for us, so our analytics team literally sits at the middle of the company so that everybody kind of interacts with them on a day-to-day basis. And I think where analytics used to be sort of a media reporting function that happened at the end of a campaign or, in the midst of a campaign for a digital effort, it now happens all the way through. So you don't really, you don't choose an influencer unless you understand all the metrics and the insights about what that influencer can do for you. You don't choose a partner. We talked about building these big programs and partners. You don't choose one unless you have the right insights that gives you a lot of confidence that at the end it's going to have an impact on your business. So analytics really starts to impact every single phase of the business. And I think that's really important. The other thing is that it's much easier now to get client data into systems that everybody then has one view. So dashboards that everybody can sort of have the same view and make decisions off of the same information. That's become more important in our business as a way for everybody to be on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, very lucky as a brand that I work very cross-functionally with the team that builds the mobile app and the loyalty program. So this first-party data, and we talk with the Trilia team all the time about what a mobile-first digital strategy is and what those metrics look like. And it really does flip the whole, how many impressions do we need to serve versus are people going to the store, are they redeeming, are they downloading the app, are they quality loyalty customers, and just kind of really gear our thinking around those metrics versus just CPMs.
Mm-hmm. So we're just sort of at the end of our conversation, but I wonder if we could have everyone just go down the line and say, sort of what you think for the next 6 months would be the one thing that you do now that you're really interested in doubling down on, or some early piece or some early sign of something that you're seeing in your test and learn model that you think is a trend that might be important? And you might, hey, you don't have to be right. You might be wrong. That is not the goal of this game. But, you know, I think that's always fun to get that perspective and for all of us to sort of see the sky and the road ahead.
I guess from my perspective, for Keds, right now we don't really have mono-brand retail presence in the US. We are looking forward to growing rapidly in APAC. So to me, one of the things I'm most passionate about and that I love is actually bringing the omni-channel experience into retail. So I can't wait to actually do that because it's the most pure brand expression you have as a marketer, to have somebody come in and exercise all their senses. And it's all about what's the right mix, where does technology intersect there, and how do we drive an amazing brand affinity. So
you like VR?
I do. I like it a lot. Yeah.
I have to think about it, to be honest with you. I mean, there's so many different things that work, and every brand is so different. You know, how do we double down? For example, you know, even, you know, Pandora, for example, we included, it's part of our mix all the time for a reason, because we know it works with local market support. So we know that it works with radio. We know when it works even better and more effective when TV's in market. So, you know, there's what we're getting to, you know, and what we're doubling down is really nailing down the efficacy of each of the channels and really combining all of them to have them really work together versus trying to say, you know, one works better than the other. So it's that constant media mix and measurement that really allows us to fine tune what that consumer journey is going to be like and that consumer surround strategy is going to be like. So I'm not really doubling down on anything per se. It really depends on the client. Yeah.
She'll go crazy with AR and VR and like be blowing things up in stores,
Emily,
and you'll like have the back of the house
how many
organized.
people have glasses out there right now?
Yeah,
You know?
lot.
I'm with you.
Everybody has Google Cardboard. Come on.
What about you two?
I think something really exciting is chatbots. I think that making the experience for people easier and more seamless by letting them use natural language, letting them use kind of easy kind of text conversations to make customer service better, make ordering things easier, make reserving things easier. I think it's going to transform a lot of industries.
I'm going to kind of, it sounds like a safe answer, but it's not. It's really the blend of old techniques getting more personalized through technology and new techniques becoming more mass. So as a brand like Dunkin, we've really been built on you know, reaching a lot of different people through mass media. So it's this kind of convergence of new and old, and they're each kind of borrowing strategies from each other and how we kind of go about planning that way and get personalized, but also get mass at the same time. And it's going to be a really fun year.
Sure. So I'll summarize what I think I heard through memory. It's something I'm trying to work on as a skill as a parent. So personalization at scale, going to be important. Be a good partner. Know your audience so that you can build great, compelling, creative storytelling together. Test and learn and be willing to bring programs that have that test and known quantity in terms of performance. And maybe don't be afraid to get to know your partner a little bit more than you think you know them, like the rubber that's in the soles of their shoes or the quality of the coffee that they serve.
Stability.
Yeah, and to be a great partner in that regard. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us here. Thank you for paying attention.
I know.